Michael and Christina, their arms laden with groceries, stepped into their 10th-floor apartment, their eyes immediately drawn to the strange sight on their bed. A heap of leaves and twigs, strewn haphazardly, as if a miniature tornado had swept through. Michael, a wildlife biologist, felt a familiar tingle of curiosity. "Something's not right," he muttered, moving towards the bed. As he carefully lifted the leaves, his heart skipped a beat. Nestled beneath the debris, two tiny, hairless creatures, barely the size of his thumb, lay huddled together. Newborn squirrels. "They must have been left here," Christina said, her voice filled with wonder. But how? They had no idea what happened to their mother. Michael reasoned that the squirrel's home, perhaps a nest in a nearby tree, had become unsafe for the mother squirrel to give birth, and she had chosen their apartment as a last resort. Days turned into weeks, and the squirrels continued to grow, their tiny bodies plumping with every feeding. The mother squirrel, however, seemed to be distant. She brought in more nesting materials, but she never stayed with her young. One day, the nest was empty, except for a single, walnut-sized squirrel. The mother squirrel was gone, never to return. The little creature looked up at Michael and Christina with wide, trusting eyes. They were helpless, and they knew they couldn't leave him alone. So, they made a decision. They would become foster parents. They named the squirrel Thumbelina, and their apartment became a tiny wildlife sanctuary. Michael, armed with a tiny syringe, meticulously fed her a specialized formula, while Christina, with gentle fingers, massaged her tiny body to promote circulation. Thumbelina, however, seemed different. When a baby squirrel is born, it is blind and deaf, opening its eyes only after about 5 weeks. Thumbelina, however, remained blind for 9 weeks, her world a blur of smells and sounds. And as she grew, her peculiarities continued. While other baby squirrels her age were weaned onto solid foods, Thumbelina clung to her milk formula, her tiny mouth happily slurping it down. Other squirrels, at this age, were climbing and jumping, exploring their environment. Thumbelina, however, preferred to stay close to her foster parents, snuggling on their laps, basking in their warmth. Michael and Christina were concerned. They wanted Thumbelina to experience the freedom of the wild, to join her brethren in the park outside their window. But every time they tried to release her, she would run back to them, her tiny body trembling with fear. They tried everything. They took her to the park, gently placing her on the branches of a nearby tree, hoping she would take to her natural habitat. They introduced her to other squirrels, hoping she would learn from them. But nothing worked. Thumbelina, the squirrel who had never known a mother's love, was deeply attached to her foster parents, to the warmth of their apartment, to the comfort of their arms. "Maybe," Michael said one evening, watching Thumbelina curled up on Christina's lap, "she doesn't need the wild. Maybe she just needs us." They continued to care for her, knowing that Thumbelina was different, but also knowing that their love for her was unconditional. And so, they continued to take Thumbelina on walks in the park, hoping that one day, perhaps, she might find a place for herself in the world.